Hey there, friends. All of today's stories are sourced directly from listeners like you. That's something I love saying because I love having crowdsourced videos where the stories all come from people that love the show. So, if you have a story, go ahead and send it in to astheravendreams.com, or you can email it to me at astheravendreams@gmail.com. And of course, thank you. Hi, Raven. I had a rather unexplainable experience when I was about 10. I'm 24 now, and I could never determine what I actually saw or what truly happened, but here is my recollection. I was at a friend's house one summer day, and we were there by ourselves. The house was rather old and definitely had negative energy, considering there was a lot of drug use, fighting, and other questionable activity happening there. It was a trap house, for lack of better term. For context, 2 of the bedrooms upstairs were connected via a long walk-in closet, easily 10 to 12 feet long. The bedroom my friend and I were in, bedroom 1, had full access to the closet, while the other bedroom, bedroom 2, had a sheet or blanket tightly nailed over the doorway of said closet for privacy. Emphasis on tightly nailed. There was no slack in this sheet/blanket. It was nailed completely around and did not move. The doorway leading into the second bedroom was directly at the top of the stairs as well. Anyways, my friend and I were hanging out in bedroom 1. I was sitting on the floor directly in front of the walk-in closet, while my friend was off to the side. There was no light or windows in this closet, so it was very dark. For whatever reason, I looked up into the closet. I saw a set of very long, sharp black claws reaching around the sheet from inside of bedroom 2, about 6 feet from the ground. The best way that I can describe these claws would be like a mix of absurdly long human fingers and a crow's foot. They were black, bony, maybe 8 inches or more in length. They had long, black pointed nails, maybe 2 to 3 inches long. These claws pulled the side of the sheet back to reveal a demonic, animalistic-looking face. The details of the face are hard to remember, especially given how dark it was in the closet. I do, however, remember this creature opening its mouth wide as if it was hissing at me, but I don't recall any sound coming out. Even though the closet was very dark, this creature was darker. It was blacker than black. As soon as it seemingly hissed at me, the sheet was thrown back into place, and both my friend and I heard loud, fast footsteps running down the stairs. My friend, who didn't see the creature, automatically assumed somebody had come home. I told her what I had just seen, and we both agreed it had to have been someone playing a prank on us. We immediately went downstairs to see if anyone had come home, and sure enough, we were still the only ones there. This happened during the middle of the day too, so it confused me even more. We went into bedroom 2 to see if the sheet was loose on the doorway or if there was any physical proof of what I had seen. The sheet was still tightly nailed to the doorway as it originally was. There was no way that it could have been pulled back, as I witnessed, without it being ripped or loosened. We had tried to recreate the sound of the footsteps running down the stairs, but no matter how fast we ran, we could not duplicate the sound that we had both heard. The footsteps were so much louder and faster than our own. I have never witnessed anything like this since, nor have I heard of anyone having a similar experience to my own. I was the only one to physically see the creature, so my friend couldn't confirm what I had seen. If anyone has any insight on what this could have been, I would love to hear it. Hello. My name is Ashlee, and I'm submitting a personal experience from December of 2012 in New Plymouth, New Zealand. I have never shared this publicly before. Sorry if the flow isn't perfect, as writing this was difficult, and you're very welcome to edit it if it helps the story work better for the show. I don't use or have ever had social media, but I do love listening to your podcast, and this is the only place that I will post this story, so thank you for giving me this opportunity to get this off of my chest somewhere, and thank you for taking the time to read it. I want to start by saying that I'm a skeptic by nature. I don't actively believe in UFOs or paranormal explanations, and I've spent years trying to rationalize what happened. That's part of why this experience shook me so deeply. Even now, I still can't explain it. I'm not here to claim aliens or anything supernatural. I only know what I saw, and whatever it was real. This happened in December of 2012 in New Plymouth, New Zealand. I was 18 and finishing my final year of high school. In New Zealand, once exams begin, you don't attend normal classes anymore. You only come in for exams. That evening, I had just finished one. It was summer, and although it was around 7:30 to 8 p.m., it was still very bright outside. That long daylight you get at the end of the year. Before I get to the encounter itself, some context about my friend Sophie and me. We met in 2009 while attending New Plymouth Girls High School and became best friends, despite being complete opposites, which is part of why this experience has stayed with me for so long. Sophie was tall, around 6 foot, with dark hair, an alternative style, and tattoos. In New Zealand, you can start getting tattoos at 16 with guardian permission, and she fully leaned into that look. I was the opposite. I was about 5'4", blonde at the time, and fairly innocent. I loved Hannah Montana and listened to Miley Cyrus constantly. We didn't look like the kind of people who would even be friends, but we balanced each other out and were best friends throughout high school. That matters because Sophie wasn't someone who scared easily, or jumped to conclusions. Neither of us was prone to imagining things. Instead of catching the bus back to my hometown in Waitara, I planned to stay at Sophie's place. She didn't have an exam that day, so she met me afterward, and we spent a few hours wandering around the New Plymouth CBD, talking and just killing time. Later, we started walking back to her aunt's house. The route took us along Coronation Avenue, a long, usually busy road near New Plymouth Boys High School and the racecourse. There are hotels, shops, and traffic at most hours. We walked on the racecourse side of the road, where there was grass instead of a footpath, but plenty of room to walk. We had been walking for a while when something caught my eye to the right, hovering above the racecourse, maybe about 15 meters in the air. At first I thought it was a kite, and then I realized that it was keeping pace with us. It wasn't drifting in the wind or lagging behind, it stayed perfectly aligned with us as we walked. The strangest part was that it looked like it was following us without actually moving. There was no visible forward motion, no drifting or acceleration. Yet it remained exactly level with us the entire time, as if our movement alone was enough to keep it beside us. That was the moment that I knew something wasn't right. We both got a clear look at it, and I still can't explain what it was. It appeared to change size and shape within seconds, almost like it couldn't hold a stable form. The surface looked gray and static-like, glitchy, like a television on a dead channel. Around it were strange distortions, blob-like pockets in the air that looked warped, as if reality around it wasn't behaving properly. At the time, drones weren't really a thing in New Zealand, especially not in 2012, so it didn't feel like a remote-controlled device. Eventually, one of us whispered, "What is that?" We tried to name it, a kite, a bird, but none of it fit. It wasn't anything we recognized. The worst part was the feeling that it gave us. It felt aware. Every instinct in my body told me not to talk too much, like saying the wrong thing would make it notice us even more. Even afterward, I had this deep, unsettling feeling that something inside me was warning me not to talk about it, or else it would come back. Then the street changed. Coronation Avenue is usually noisy, especially in summer, but suddenly there was nothing. No cars, no voices, no footsteps, not even distant traffic. It was like someone had turned the sound off completely. We panicked and ran. At first, there was no houses on our side of the road, just open space by the racecourse. The feeling of being followed intensified like pressure on the back of my neck. Eventually, houses appeared again, and we slowed just long enough to consider knocking on a random door for help, but then the object disappeared. It was just gone. Shaken, we tried to rationalize what had happened, and kept walking towards Sophie's aunt's house, telling ourselves it was over, but it wasn't. A few minutes later, it appeared again, this time closer and moving faster. We were on a completely different street now. We started running again, crying, completely terrified. Once again, we were about to knock on someone's door for help, and that's when Sophie's mom suddenly drove past. This alone was strange because Sophie hadn't spoken to her mom in some time. She stopped and asked if we wanted to ride. We didn't explain anything. We didn't say a word. We just got into the back seat as fast as we could. We sat in complete silence until we were dropped off at Sophie's aunt's house. Later that night, Sophie told me that this wasn't the first time she had seen something like this. She said that before what happened to us, she had once looked out of her bedroom window and seen a UFO hovering over a forest about 1 kilometer away on someone's farm. It wasn't moving, just hovering in the distance. I believed her immediately. Sophie wasn't someone who lied or exaggerated, and I knew she wouldn't make something up like that. She told me that seeing something like this for a second time within a short period really frightened her. After what happened that night, she was genuinely shaken in a way that I had never seen before. Her aunt's house was right on the edge of town. In New Plymouth, you can be in the city and just 5 minutes later be surrounded by countryside, which made how isolated and quiet that street felt that evening even more unsettling. Even now, there are nights when this memory comes back too clearly, and I have to force myself to think about something else. It feels like a warning from a second voice in my head, telling me to stop before I think too hard about it, as if dwelling on it for too long might make that thing reappear. I don't use social media, and this is the first time I've ever shared this online. I've only told my closest friends and family, and part of me hopes that Sophie might somehow hear this someday. I miss her deeply, and I hope she hasn't seen anything like that again. I still don't know what followed us, and I still don't know how it moved without moving. And I still don't know why it felt so aware of us. But whatever it was, it didn't feel random, and that's the part that I've never been able to shake. Hi, Raven. I have a friend who we'll call H. He told me something that happened to him a few years ago when he was a teenager that he couldn't explain. I believe him because this friend is a cut and dry person. This is the first time that he's ever mentioned anything remotely strange. He told me that he was taking a shower on a day like any other, and he bent down to scrub his legs. That's when he felt something sticking out of the side of his calf. Upon further inspection, it looked like some kind of thin metal rod stuck there like a splinter. But when he tried to pull it out, it was almost as if his skin had already healed around it and wouldn't budge. Now, my friend is a pretty clean person, so it's not like he hasn't scrubbed his leg in weeks. He would 100% have noticed at least the morning before the shower, let alone much before it would have time to have fully healed. H thought it was strange that even when putting long pants on that morning, he didn't feel anything brushing against the fabric. He said that it didn't hurt though, but his dad took him to the emergency room to have it removed since he couldn't pull it out himself. He then told me that the nurses were just as baffled. The doctors did a simple procedure and cut it out and had it sent to a lab. A while later, he called the hospital again to ask for the results from the lab work. Of course, H wanted to know exactly what was in his leg and where it could have come from. But they said that the lab results of the material the rod was made of was classified. They couldn't give him any further information. Classified? He never found out exactly what it was that had probed him. This event happened on the 26th of November in 2025 in the afternoon. I remember because the next day was my friend Z's birthday, and on that day I was stressed out because I was running late to my optician's appointment, and I was being stood up by the plumber. It's important to note that my small town of Greece is undergoing a revitalization process, and pavements are being extended and roads getting smaller. So I was near one of the central squares of my town, and they had just finished extending that pavement, but it's not done yet. So it's just cement, not a sign of the tiles that are meant to be there yet. In addition, it was my first time seeing the new pavement and using it. It was already nighttime, meaning that there was no sun. The clock showed 1856, and my optician's appointment was at 7 p.m. And the neighborhood streetlights were not on. Only the light from the surrounding shops and Christmas decorations on the balconies and the windows of the shops provided light, because my town has a system of energy saving that, every day on rotation, neighborhoods go dark to preserve energy. It started in 2020, when the town lowered the brightness of lights in general for light pollution. Hence, the square was darker than usual, and it gave a very eerie and slight cyberpunk vibe, since the strongest hues of lights were blue and cold white ones. That's when the odd event occurred. I'm walking, hurrying myself when time seems to slow down around me and the lights go dimmer too, with the hue of blue becoming deeper blue and the primary light shining. People around me kept moving in a bit of a slowed down pace, but acted as if nothing was out of the ordinary. I felt like I was literally suspended in time for a few seconds. I felt lighter both emotionally and also physically. In addition, as I looked around me, I got this familiar feeling that I've been there before. It wasn't the feeling of déjà vu or déjà rêve. Déjà rêve is when you see a dream you had come true before your eyes, and you know it's your dream, but it happens too fast to even do anything. So back to the event. I see a couple walking by me, and they're discussing food options for the next day's meal and if Mother would like it. And I'm assuming it's the mother-in-law. That happens to my left side, just like the guy with the bike having locked it against the stop sign and making a call to someone. On my right side, there's a guy exiting the cafe shop holding a cup of coffee to go, and he sees bike guy and they wave and start to catch up. Then a woman with a baby stroller passes by me, and I see the white blanket in the stroller. I turn up to the sky and I notice the building across from me. It has a mirrored exterior, and it's also reflecting the deep blue light. Then I see two kids holding a basketball passing by me, when the one kid with the dark blue hoodie and brown hair met my eyes, and he looked a bit confused at me. And then I heard a voice behind me say, "Excuse me," and I think I should turn, so I make the move, and somehow the lights were back on how it was before, yet no one was behind me. I look at my phone and the time is 18:57. So I've been standing there for a minute, yet it felt both longer and faster at the same time. I don't know what happened. I wasn't stressed out to the point of a panic attack, and my usual panic attacks or anxiety attacks don't start with dimming lights. I told my friend Ellen a few days later, and as I was recounting to her what happened, I remembered that I had seen a dream like that in 2020. just in the midst of the pandemic. Yet I didn't remember the detail, just how the square was and the dark blue light that gave it this very otherworldliness. But nothing about the details I mentioned. Also, other people didn't say anything about the dimming blue lights, or anything. And that guy from the cafe shop, he came to the opticians at 1930, and in casual conversation, I asked him if he noticed the lights dimming, saying how we as a town must have issues with the current voltage. He said that he hadn't noticed anything. So, any thoughts? Why did I experience that? And what did I experience exactly? And no, it wasn't an issue with my eyesight or glasses. And that's the event. Thank you for taking the time to read it, Raven. And I hope that you are doing well too. Hi, Raven. I'm going to tell you about some of my prophetic dreams. These dreams didn't start until I was in my early 20s. I assume the concussion I received in an auto accident at the age of 23 started it, but of course, I don't know for sure. Before the accident, I would get gut feelings every so often that would become reality, but always while I was awake. For instance, I was driving down a country road and told my boyfriend, "This looks like a good place to round a corner and see a cow standing in the middle of the road." Sure enough, a few corners later there was indeed a cow standing in the middle of the road. That scenario played out a few different times with different animals, along with other intuitive experiences. The dreams started about 6 months after my accident. The moment I woke up from the first dream, I knew that it would come true. I can't explain how I knew, but I knew. It's the same with every prophetic dream I've ever had. As soon as I wake up, I know whether it's just a normal dream or something to be cautious of. Sometimes I know the people in my dreams, but most of the times I don't. If a person I know in real life is in one of these dreams, the dream is connected to them, with the exception of one dream so far. There have been times that the person in the dream is me, but the reality happens to someone else. Other times, I'm just an observer in the dream watching from among the people. I generally don't know if the dream will happen to me, someone I know, or someone I don't know. That, in a nutshell, is why I consider it a curse. 9 out of 10 of these dreams are not good, and there's no way for me to warn the people because I have no idea who or where they are. I also never know how long it will be until the dream manifests. I've had some come true the next day, some have waited weeks, and others have occurred while I was dreaming them. I don't have them as often as I used to, thank God, but they've become more intense and have longer-lasting physical repercussions. I've learned how to mentally accept and deal with these dreams, but the older I get, well, my body doesn't cope with the physical stress these dreams cause as well as it used to. Most of my dreams are not suitable for children, adults, or social media as a whole, so I'll start with a few of the family-friendly ones that I'll have, and you can decide what to do with the others. My high school best friend went into the military right after he graduated. We went months at a time with no communication. After my accident, every time I dreamt of him, he would call the next day. That went on for a couple of decades. Even during the time I had no phone, he would call my workplace from wherever he was stationed at the time. There were a few times that he actually came knocking on my door after I had dreamt of him. There have been several dreams where I'm visiting with friends that I haven't seen in a while, and within a week of the dream, that friend comes to visit me. Or we happen to cross each other out in the world. I wish all of these dreams were this pleasant. In another dream, I was getting ready to go to a friend's wedding. It was hilarious because I had an extremely poofy dress on and was trying to stuff all that dress into a Corvette. I'm not a poofy dress kind of girl, and I could only dream, pardon the pun, of having a Corvette. The next day, I told my friend that her boyfriend had a surprise for her. I didn't tell her what the surprise was, just that he had one. It was just before her birthday, so it could have been any type of surprise. He proposed on her birthday, and the next spring I went to their reception wearing a long, straight skirt and a blouse, riding in my date's Ford Probe. A far cry from a vet, but in defense of the Ford, seeing that poofy dress fill the Probe would have been a lot funnier. And I'm all for more comedy these days. Years ago, I dreamt I was holding my mom's arm, escorting her across their carport with a sense of urgency. She was elderly and weak, and I felt as though I had to protect her from something. When I had the dream, she wasn't elderly and weak in real life, but I woke up knowing it was that kind of dream. About 2 years ago, Mom, Dad, and I had been visiting in their carport. When we all stood up to go inside, she stumbled and fell. I realized it was the dream as I was helping her up. She's mostly recovered from her fall, but I still struggle with the fact that both of my parents are elderly. I might struggle even more with the fact that I'm right behind them. One day, I was gathering outfits, makeup, and hair accessories for a photo session I had the following day. I wanted to put diamond braids in my hair and search the whole house for my tiny rubber bands. That night, I dreamt that they were in the very back of my dresser drawer. The next morning, I dumped the drawer out and I found them. I still haven't figured out how they got from my hair care kit in the bathroom to the very back of the sock drawer in my bedroom. A married pair of friends of mine had 2 children. I had a dream about each child before they were born and told their parents what gender they were having. I knew of the second pregnancy before they even told me that they were expecting again. Technically, though, you could say I was wrong about the second child's gender, because I dreamt of a male child. They were born male, but is transgender. This next dream comes with a content warning. In fact, the following dreams all come with slight content warnings. This dream only lasted a few seconds. A dream explosion at my feet jolted me awake for real. It felt and sounded so real that I thought a real explosion had occurred. I could feel the heat on my feet and started trying to put out the fire. When I saw there was no fire, I realized it was one of those dreams. This was among the first 10 or 15 dreams I'd had, and I wasn't as quick to recognize them as I am now. A few days later, the newspaper told the story of a woman who had suffered third-degree burns in most of her body when her campsite exploded. I dreamed the explosion, but I can't and don't want to imagine what agony she was in the last month of her life. In this next dream, I was going to a social event. The parking lot was full, and the cars were parked on the side of the road. I parked my car and was walking to the building, and as I was passing one of the parked cars, I noticed a child trying to get out from under the car. One look at him told me that there was nothing I could do for him except call 911 and comfort him in his last moments. This was my first prophetic dream, and it devastated me for months. I didn't know how to process this dream, much less the fact that I knew the dream would become reality. I was so troubled with it that I confided in my best friend the next day. She did her best to convince me that it was just a nightmare, but I knew it was more than that. That weekend, we were at a local watering hole, and another friend told us that her friends had lost their son to a speeding driver when the child rode his bicycle into the street, from between 2 parked cars. We didn't know the grieving family, but that didn't stop both of us from crying our eyes out for them. After seeing the pain I had shared with my bestie that night, I stopped telling her about the really bad ones. She would help me interpret them if I asked her to, but I don't want her to bear any of the guilt that comes with knowing and not being able to help. I also don't want to expose her to the violence and bloodshed that I've seen. She's grown with children and grandchildren, and I'm sure she's seen some horrific things in life, but some of the stuff I've witnessed would make Freddy Krueger cringe. I'll just keep those to myself. In this next dream, I was sleeping and awakened by my front door being kicked in. I couldn't find my protection in the dark. Those few seconds of this dream repeated themselves 4 times. The dream stopped in the middle of me searching for my weapon and started with the door bursting open again. The 4th time, as I was searching, the light in my bedroom came on, and I saw a relative of mine coming at me. Confused by the rage in his eyes and the claw hammer in his hand, I tried to ask what he was doing. He attacked before I could ask. I woke up for real a minute or so into the beating. On full alert, I grabbed my weapon, blocked my door, and sat on the couch guarding the door the rest of the night. Later that morning, I found out that a classmate's grandmother was fighting for her life in the ICU. As I was dreaming it, 2 of her great-grandchildren, the classmate's children, tried to end her with a claw hammer. When they thought she was gone, they robbed her house. She eventually made a full recovery, and the pair are still in prison. This was the first time I dreamed something while it was happening. I've come to the conclusion that dreams started over 4 times to get synchronized with the real attack. I also believe the reason I couldn't find my weapon in the dream is because Grandma didn't actually have a weapon. I understand that, in my dream, the dream showed me my relative to signify that Grandma was attacked by someone she knew. What I don't understand after all these years of contemplating it is why did it show me that particular relative? I've tried to convince myself that he was shown because he was about the same age as the actual attackers. Tried being the key word in that sentence. I probably shouldn't be, but I'm extremely cautious of him since the dream. So far, this is the only time I've dreamt of someone I know, but the dream had nothing to do with them. Hence, my extreme caution. I started this journey asking, why show me these atrocities when I'm powerless to help the victims? Then I started asking, why me? And who is showing me these nightmares? I've even wondered if I'm astral projecting in my sleep. There have been quite a few times that I truly felt like I possessed the victim while they were being victimized. I know nothing about astral projection or spiritual possession, so I can't speak to their possibilities. I will say that if anyone knows how to astral project themselves, I'll beg you to tell me how to stop it. Otherwise, I'll continue to assume that I'll never know the answer to any of these questions, and I'll try to stop wondering. I guess you could say that I'm more desensitized than most people. My own personal life experiences, movies, and video games started that transition long before the dreams came about, though. I've kept my sanity by taking a few days to process each bad dream and accept the fact that I'm merely a witness to it. Then, I imagine putting them in a basket of a hot air balloon and releasing the dreams and their victims to the wind. I like to think that by giving them back to creation, I'm releasing the victims' souls to find peace. And at the same time, I'm deleting these experiences from my thoughts. When the occasional good dream comes around, I share it with my bestie and hang on to it just a little longer than the bad ones. I have listened to you from the beginning. I only discovered you a few years back, but I listened to you all day and night. It took a year to listen to all the stories, and I love that you're still you. Well, thank you. All the times that you're so hard on yourself, you've found yourself a niche in people's hearts. You don't judge the stories, you don't talk too much about yourself on the podcast, and when you mention certain life events, it makes you real. You're a breath of fresh air with sunshine. Again, thank you. I just want you to know how appreciated you are. I'm in Arizona and I've lived here for 42 years, and I found the true origin story of skinwalkers. Because some people have issues with me saying that, I'm just going to call them walkers for the rest of this story. A long time ago, when Europeans were wreaking havoc, the natives wanted a better way to resist. The shaman conferred with one another. They had connections with Mexican shaman, and a couple of shaman conferred together. One of them was from deep in Mexico. He felt bad for his American neighbors, and he shared a very ancient dark ritual. It was only to be used in the most dire of situations. That is where it came from. I asked why there are so many now, and the answer was this: men want power, and men abuse power. It doesn't make them insane. The walkers here are humans when they want to be. They use terror to sway people to a desired result. You don't talk about them at all, even if you discovered your uncle was a walker and you were a twin. You would not even tell your twin. As a human, they act too big for their britches. Total power corrupts totally. As a walker, they are fast and terrifying. However, they're not all-powerful. They have to take you by surprise. They will not attack head-on. They prey upon the weak, young, and elderly. Their advantage is speed, not strength. If you approach them, they will move back, and I doubt even a silver bullet would kill them. What kills them is white ash that is blessed. Whatever weapon you use has to be coated in the blessed ash. Only then can they be harmed. The worst part of it is the ritual to become a walker. Not only do you sacrifice the closest person to you, you sacrifice an infant as well. When they do this, they lose their humanity. I have a walker lurking in our neighborhood, so I found a wonderful young Apache who answered my questions honestly. I was afraid, but now that I know about them, I have no fear of them. I need to make some white ash and give it to all of my neighbors. It has stopped bothering me, but has moved down and is bothering the neighbors. I know this isn't much of a story. I do have better stories, and I will send them, I promise. This is my first communication to you. I'm Dezirae, and you always have permission to use my name. Stay wonderful, and sleep well. So that, my friends, was a collection of strange and scary stories from subscribers. Stories from people just like you that have strange, scary, and weird experiences they like to send in. Typically these come about if I can't quite find a place for the stories, or if I have an open space for a video that I need to put together quickly. Not really quickly, but you know what I mean. If I have an open space while I'm scheduling, I'm like, you know what, I have like 6 stories here that would make 30 some odd minutes of content. That's perfect, let's do that. And I do it. Can I say it's cold? It's cold. It feels like -7 outside right now. This upcoming weekend, we're at a -20 as ambient temperature. That's pre-wind chill. It's going to be very cold. The basement gets cold. I'm wearing an oversized blanket hoodie to keep myself warm. It gets cold down here. Just wanted to say that out loud. Hopefully you enjoyed this collection of stories. If you did, please do hit that like button on the video. If you're new to the channel and liked what you heard, consider subscribing. That'd be really, really appreciated. And if you would like to say hi, let me know your thoughts. Just chat for a second. Leave a comment. That helps the video do better, and we get to say hello to each other. Talk about things and such. So, you can also join Patreon or memberships to get early access to content like this and other things, depending on what you sign up for. You can also do a super thanks, which is a tip to the channel, or come around on a Saturday night, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, whatever. We stream on those days. Yeah. You can also go to the website, astheravendreams.com, where you can find information such as all the podcast places, all the accolades of the show, stories I've written, and also information on how to send in a story. By clicking that button on this page, you can send your story in, or you can email it to astheravendreams@gmail.com. Yeah. All that said, my friends, I hope you're having a lovely day. Stay warm out there if you're in part of the world where it's cold. Stay cool if you're in part of the world where it's hot. And just remember that you are loved, you are valid, you are important, and you are the best that you can be. Don't forget it. And of course, my friends, until I see you again, much love, and sleep well.